Welcome to the 2015 Atlanta Film Festival. Woof!
So the plot. I don't really want to direct any, directing takes a lot of energy and time, and so those are the movies that are the ones that I want to make, the ones that I love, the ones that maybe if I didn't make them, nobody else would have made them, Nobody had adapted As I Lay Dying by Faulkner in the 80 years since it was written. So if I'm directing, I'm fueled by the ones that I love, and if I'm acting, really just people that I believe in.
When you're looking at roles to take on as an actor, are you attracted to roles that you see yourself in, or ones that are a challenge and are totally different from you?
I mean, it's always different, because since I started directing, the question of the question I used to get as a young actor, and every actor probably gets is, well, who would you love to work with that you haven't worked with, director-wise? And of course I love a lot of directors. As an actor, of course I'd love to work with Wes Anderson. I'd love to work with Scorsese. I'd love to work with P.T. Anderson, or these guys. There's a million I'd love to work with, but it's. What was the question?
Do you like them, or you're like, oh, I've been there. I've kind of felt like you see yourself in that role.
Oh, right, yeah.
Totally
To me, it's the best about the project, really. Sometimes, with Harmony, he wrote that role Alien, and it was like, oh my God, that. It's like actor, just fantasy land. You could do anything. You get this crazy outfit, you get to act, chew up the scenery all day long, and it still works. It still fits the movie. It's just like heaven. So yeah, of course that's fun. And we're planning to do another one, and it's a very different role. But again, I know he and I that was the best experience for both of us. So it was let's do something like that again, So in that case, yeah, give me a role that is super far from me, and as an actor, that'll be. If there's a project I believe in, and it's sort of like I Am Michael, it's an awesome project. It's a cool character, but it's not like I had to go and put on a ton of weird, crazy behavior or anything like that, or do tons and tons of research. I sort of understood the guy. I knew the role would suffer if I put too much on top of it. It needs to just feel kind of simple and authentic. That's what's key about that role. So as an actor, you could say, well, yeah, it wasn't like going to actor, fantasy land, playing Alien. You're just what's next? Let's do more. It's sort of it's more subtle, but it's satisfying in a different way. I'm contributing to, an important, awesome movie. So, that I believe in, and I'll do my part to serve the project. I don't need to go to Justin Kelly on I Am Michael and say, well, I think, he should have a South African accent, and, whatever, has a mohawk, I just, it's no, just make it simple.
Do you feel you have a directing style, and has working with the various directors you've worked with, have you borrowed or stolen from them, and has that contributed?
That's a good question. I've taken a lot of things from different directors, and there's subtle things, One thing I always like to think about is, and it seems like a small thing, but a lot of what a director does is, sort of guides the set, is the glue for all the departments coming together. together. And one of the places they all really come together, and you know, the biggest way is on set. And you know, the production designer's work is there, and the DP is shooting, the actors are there, and you know, they're doing the script by the writer, and you know, everybody's kind of converging there. And so, as a director, you're sort of in the middle of all that, and so it's really important for me to make sure that everybody is kind of working together in a very productive way. And Sam Raimi is really great at that. You know, he's got a great on-set demeanor. It's always fun. Everybody always wants to be at a Sam Raimi set. And if everybody always wants to be, you know, he tells jokes, and you know, he's on point. You know, he's making sure that everything's good, but in a fun way. It doesn't, you know, it's making movies and TV shows or whatever. It's like, if you're on a set, it's like, man, you're fortunate. You know, you get to do that. Like, of all the things in the world, like, that is, it's one of the best places to be in the world. So, like, if you make that, if you're somebody that makes that a miserable place, like, I personally don't want to be around. Like, I don't want to be on a set like that. So, not that I want to goof off, you know, lame set, but I just want to work, you know, I want everybody to, like, have fun. Like, it should be fun, even when you're making dark stuff. Like, I think, and, you know, we had a dark scene last night, you know, some kid gets beat up brutally, like it wasn't, you know, it was fun. It was like, all right, it was, you know, like, all my friends, and one friend is beating up another friend, and, you know, it's fun, like make-believe. And I got a lot of that from Sam, and it's also, you know, there was one of my teachers at NYU, I really like, you know, some people didn't, he was like this older teacher who taught producing, is very old school, and some of his ideas were very outdated, like, oh, this whole streaming thing online, it's not gonna, you know, there's not enough bandwidth, and it's not gonna catch up. It was like right before Netflix, like, darn, I don't think it's gonna work. Like, but he was smart about on-set stuff, you know, in some of his kind of old school ways, and he's like, don't, you know, he's like, I'm gonna visit, you know, we were going out and doing our first short films for NYU, and he's like, I'll visit the sets, and, you know, I don't want to go to a set and see the director out there, you know, being the big boss and making a show of being the big boss. Like, he's like, a good director is, you know, just there, low-key, you know, kind of talking to each person that he, you know, he or she needs to talk to, and just making sure it gets done. Doesn't need to be, you know, the big, you know, whatever. And that is how I kind of try and handle myself on set. And I really think it's important, having worked with a lot of different kinds of directors. You want people to want to be there. You know, if people don't want to be there, they're gonna go slow. They're not gonna, you know, they're not gonna give you that little extra. And on my movies, you know, that's also important to me. Is like, I shoot more than I ever use in a movie, but I like having those bonus things just because of the way that I make them. You know, I like these little moments. I like, you know, I guess you could say I haven't worked with him, but like, you know, Terrence Malick, you know, he gets the details. Yeah, you know, I'm sure, you know, he shoots the script or maybe doesn't shoot the script, but like he gets extra details, and I need that, and I need the people working with me to be kind of willing to say, all right, we're getting some extra now. You know, it's not just, this is the blueprint, we're going to do that, and that's it. You know, like, I need them to be excited about what they're doing and want to be there to go and get all that extra stuff, and it's important to the way that I make movies, so I need them to want to be there, and so that comes down to me. Like, as a director, and one of the things, Soderbergh came and talked at NYU when I was there, and one of the things I took from that talk was, you know, as a director, it's not, you're not quite a parent on the set, but it's almost like that, where if you really chastise somebody, it's almost like your parent just, you know, scolded you. Yeah, and so you got to be aware of that. Like you know, as a director, you do really set a tone on the set, and so it's not. And so for me, I'm not going to bring anybody. I don't work like some actors think like, oh, I'm my best when I'm always arguing and I'm always questioning, and it's just like I don't work that well that way. That's not me. So like, if you want to come and argue, don't come to my set. Like, let's all get on board and figure it out together. Let's not argue. And so I just lost my train of thought again. But anyway, you know, I want everybody to kind of be there on the same page. I was going to say something else, but I don't know.
Go back, acting together. Do you find people who you come across them in this direction, but you see that they have an interest in other things like you do, and you find opportunities for them to be able to do that? Like, how do you nurture your core? Keep them motivated?
Yeah, the people that don't really kind of get on board with what we're doing, kind of, you know, they fade away, or they don't really work out. Like they have, you know, the people that I've been working with us for years are all people that are passionate about, you know, making these creative things, and yeah, of course, you know, I'm a teacher. I want, you know, I want to foster people's creativity, and that goes to the people I work with, you know. So I try to give them, you know, creative responsibilities and make them collaborators, not just, you know, people that are just doing what I want. Like, I want them to create.
You mentioned Heyday. We saw the first segment of the students at UCLA.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about taking those collection of short, like what it was like adapting that and deciding to do it in this direction.
Well, I guess the reason I wanted everyone to watch that, what was the first segment? I can't even remember.
It's the one with you and Abigail.
Oh, that's the first one? Oh, Walk of Winter. Okay. So that is an example of the way I teach. I teach at UCLA and USC and Cal Arts, and mainly in the graduate film departments. And all my classes are production-based, meaning they're usually year-long, and we usually have a piece of source material, just because I've found that I, you know, as a teacher / producer of these projects, just like when these younger filmmakers have some sort of source to kind of be guided by, I'm less interested in, like, you know, 3 zombie movies and you know, whatever. Like, but it also helps me. Oh shit! I think I'm in zombie country. Sorry, I like zombie movies.
Silence fell. You like to start from something that gives you parameters.
I like zombie movies. It's just basically what I'm trying to say is I need everybody in the class on the same page, because they're collaborative classes. So I guess what I was going to say is 3 zombie movies, 1 romantic comedy, 1, you know, sci-fi movie. Like, I need them all to kind of be on the same page. So I like zombie movies. I like 28 Days Later. I haven't gotten to Walking Dead yet, but I will watch the whole thing as soon as this series is over.
Multiple projects you've done.
So what happens is we have a source text. So in this set text. So in this case, Heyday of the Insensitive Bastards was a collection of short stories by one of my former teachers, Robert Boswell, who I've done a couple projects with. I directed a play that he wrote. We had this one, and so I got the rights from him, and I brought it to my class, and they are broken up more or less into groups. It works slightly differently at the different schools, but more or less there are different groups that work on different sections of the project. So in this case, it was in short stories, so every group got a short story. In other cases, at USC, we did a Don Quixote project, and that's one that had, one, overarching narrative with different sections, as, the original Don Quixote is sort of episodic, right? Don Quixote fights the windmills, Don Quixote frees the prisoners, whatever. So, so that also worked, and I've been moving more and more towards that kind of Don Quixote model where there's one overarching narrative we use, because that also allows us to use more or less the same actors throughout, but the different groups kind of borrow the actors or use the actors, kind of go from group to group. And but it's nice if there's some sort of kind of episodes inherent to the project. So, this director gets, the arc, and the ones we're doing now, it's based on my book that I wrote, Actors Anonymous. Like, okay, so this one gets when he's working at McDonald's, and then he has some weird sex in the bathroom, and then this stuff. And then this one gets this, drama with the ex-wife, and and so that sort of, so we start with the writing, and it's sort of almost run like a television show where all the writers kind of work on their pieces or episodes, but then we all come together to make sure that it all coheres and we're all building towards something that is unified. And so and then once we have the script, then the directors will all, they're all in the same room. It's all in my class. So in the class, we're always discussing like, okay, how are you going to do your section? How does that affect her section? And then how does her section affect this section? Okay, and then stylistically, what are we all thinking? You know what I mean? And so in that way, we can make a project like Heyday, and even though Heyday is broke up into sections, thematically and aesthetically, it's still sort of unified. And so that we can make a feature-length thing and that we can take out into the world. And now I don't have a class of just, 5 or 6 shorts that are all completely different and some are better than others. It's like, no, the rising ship or whatever that saying is, raises everybody. Rising tide lifts the whole ship or whatever. Everybody is kind of more or less on the same level. And it also, and if I do it like that and bring everybody up to a certain kind of level of, professionalism, I can now go out to real professional actors and people and bring them onto the project and have Abigail and have Natalie Portman's in this one and Kristen Wiig. I can go to these people I know and say, will you do this? And so it allows my students a taste of the professional world. And I think, and as far as working with actors like that, I think it's really important because, a lot of times what I saw when I was in film school is, I was lucky enough that I got, Michael Shannon in my shorts when I was at NYU. So I got to work with one of the best actors around. And some of my fellow students, nothing against inexperienced actors, but they had to work with actors that maybe sometimes were doing their first movie. And so they got a skewed perspective of how to work with actors in film, meaning they had to direct much more, they had to be much more controlling. Whereas if you have great actors, you don't have to say much. I have Vincent D'Onofrio on this movie, and it's like, he's the man. I don't have to say anything. Just all right, here's the scene, you kind of come over here and just do it. And it's like, just magic. I don't want to say anything. He's just going to make it work. And so if I can bring in Kristen Wiig and I can bring these actors that directors see oh, I don't need to tell the actor to hold the head like this or whatever. Like, just let the actors do it. And so anyway, so that's sort of how I work, and that's how this project worked. And I think it just raises everybody in the class. Yeah, they were mad that I showed that at the marathon. Yeah, Russell and I made that movie together. So I guess Russell has built on that idea and made another one, masculinity and femininity.
I've got a question here from 13-year-old Royce Mann, who's joining us here. As you do a lot of mediums, not just film, but he asks, has anyone ever told you that you can only do one type of art, and if so, what did you say back?
Yeah, I think my guess is people are saying that to me all the time in the press, but you know, it wasn't like I was blind or unaware that that was going to happen when I, you know, tried to do these other things. Like, of course, you know, an actor like writing a book, you know, it's like that's not allowed, you know, and so. I just had to, you know, ask myself, like, well, do you want to do this enough? And, you know, not only do it, but put it out in the world. Do you want that enough? And if you do, then, you know, don't worry. You know, you can't worry about this other stuff. And I know, you know, I guess in the critics' minds, like, they're just safeguarding our culture or something like that, or, you know, or maybe, you know, I'm in critical studies programs. Like, I have no problem with criticism or analysis, but you know, when you're a creative person and you're putting your work out in the world, sometimes that criticism is biting, sometimes it's harmful, and so you just kind of have to be aware of that. And one of the reasons, and figure out a way to kind of deal with that, and figure out who you're going to listen to and who you're not going to listen to for your feedback. Because I do believe feedback is incredibly important, and it's one of the reasons that when I teach, I also design my classes this way so that they can put their work out into the world. That's the final step. Seeing how your work is being read by audiences, by critics if you care to listen to them. And so, and that is the final ingredient that will make you better. Because if you're making movies, you're making television, you're making videos, whatever you're making, you know, my guess is you're making it to communicate, for an audience to read it. You're not just making it for yourself to kind of watch, unless, you know, you're making like, I don't know, porn of you and your partner or something to just, you know, get off on. Like, you're making it for an audience. Like, and so understanding how it's communicating to that audience is incredibly important. So I do value feedback, but you just have to one of the things you learn in any MFA program, you know, if it's writing or filmmaking or art or whatever, is because they're usually run in a workshop manner, you know, you're getting feedback from your classmates and your teachers on your work constantly. And one of the things you learn in that system is, well, his feedback is always lame. He does not understand what I'm trying to do. He's wrapped up in his own thing, or he's angry about the way that I dress or something. Like, his feedback is worthless. Okay, but she is always, you know, giving me good feedback, and actually when I listen to her, it makes my stuff better, and so, and you just apply that to the larger world, like, okay, this critic has some little, you know, drum to beat, and he just doesn't, whatever, he's off on his own thing, and he can, you know, beat the James Franco hate drum, fine, I don't care. This critic, you know, gets it, and if it made some great insight, okay, that will help me on the next one. And so you just have to kind of learn who to listen to and who not to listen to. And if somebody's telling you, just plain out, don't do that, you're not allowed to write books, or you're not allowed to direct, like, I would just give the advice of don't listen to them.
So the Plaza was lucky enough to be the first theater in the world to be announcing the back-on release of The Interview.
Oh,
exciting.
Brave little theater. A big theater.
And then also, every 4 times a year, we play here The Room, which I know you're working on.
Yeah.
A film of. So, can you tell us a little bit about that, and then tell us a little bit about Introduce Battle that you're working on?
Sure. Yeah, The Room. There was I'm assuming a lot of people know about it. It's been called like I don't know the worst movie ever made. Not the worst movie ever made. There's some magic to it. What?
On Wikipedia, it's the worst movie.
Okay, right. Obviously, not the worst movie. I've seen worse movies. It's maybe the worst movie that works. That you just want to keep watching. There are plenty of bad movies that you just don't even want to watch, but obviously people want to watch this one. So there's something that works about it. It was made by this guy Tommy Wiseau, and he acts in it, and it's becoming sort of like, as you know, here in this theater, it's sort of like a Rocky Horror Picture Show kind of thing, a midnight movie. Yeah. So what's that?
Which also plays here every Friday.
Okay, good. Yeah. And it's sort of kind of audience participation in it, and it's a great kind of event thing, and for a lot of reasons. And so one of the actors in it, Greg Sestero, wrote a book called The Disaster Artist that came out about a year or two ago, and it's about the making of The Room. But he was really smart. He teamed up with this great journalist, Tom Bissell, to help him write it. And so it's not just a book of all the wacky things that Tommy Wiseau did. It's actually got a lot of heart in it, and it uses Tommy's story in the making of The Room as a way to talk about everybody that has a dream of breaking into a business like this, of expressing themselves through an artistic medium, and the trials that you go through, and also working in a collaborative medium. And I wrote a tiny little article about it in the book in Vice, and my main point of that was that I love Tommy Wiseau on the one hand because he made it happen. How many people, dream about going into filmmaking or TV or whatever, going to Hollywood or whatever, and then they sit around and talk about it, or maybe try a little something, but then they don't do it. I mean, and it's hard. I don't, no shame. It's a hard business. There's no doubt about that. It's hard to get in, but there are a lot of people that are all talk, or they just, whatever. They say they want it, but their actions don't really show it. Tommy got it done, however he did it, wherever he got that money, I don't know, but he got it done. And he made the movie. He made his movie. But then on the other hand, he is somebody I would never really probably want to be directed by, because he was working in a collaborative medium and not understanding that it was a collaborative medium, meaning if you just asked for a little help, maybe he wouldn't have to have shot the whole thing in the parking lot of the lighting rental place, and somebody could have said no, Tommy, you don't need a film camera next to the digital camera, shooting every time. You're going to use one or the other. What are you doing? No, Tommy, you don't need to buy all the lights. You can just rent them. But he didn't listen, so he did it his way. And so it's sort of like a portrait of that, and telling that, and I'll be in it, and I'm going to direct it. Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg and Point Grey are going to produce it with us, and I'll be in it, and my brother will be in it, and hopefully some other great people.
Well, thank you so much again for
All right, thank you.